Welcome to the D-Shift podcast, where we provide inspiration, motivation, and education to help you transition from the challenges of divorce to discover the freedom and ability to live life on your own terms. Are you ready? Let's get this shift started. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the D-Shift podcast. And today we're going to take a different look at how to help people, women in particular, dealing with the transition of divorce and the challenges of running their own business, starting their own business, and moving forward in life. And I have an expert guest on today. I want to introduce you to Wendy Vaughan. She's a business coach. She has over 29 years of experience in helping develop businesses, get people to move to that next level where they want to go. She helps heart-centered, I'm going to read this so I don't make a mistake. She helps heart-centered experts make the biggest impact that they envision and build the business that they love. And I know Wendy personally because I was on her podcast, a couple of years ago, and Wendy actually coached me on the podcast, and I had a breakthrough about something I needed to do in my business. So I know firsthand that Wendy is she's got the skills to get down to that nitty-gritty and get you moving forward. So Wendy, welcome.
Thank you so much, Marty. I appreciate that. And that was a podcast interview we had.
Yeah, and it was
when the work that you do is so important. But as I recall, all right, how do we put this into words that really let my potential clients know what's at stake here and how I can support them? So yeah, I remember that. That was a great conversation.
Yeah. And it was just like, that word epiphany. I just all of a sudden realized how I had been describing what I did made a lot of sense to me, but made no sense to anybody else. So that was powerful. That was powerful. Wendy, how did you get into this area? Because there's not a lot of women who are in the business coaching realm, and especially not somebody with as an extensive experience as you have.
Yeah, well, it's been an interesting journey of just as most entrepreneurs, right? Kind of meandering through, and it's like, oh, well, here's a need. I could fill this. Oh, here's something I can do, and I can fill this. And so it's been an evolution, but it started out furthest from being sales, marketing, and business development. I started out, if we just want to compress the time very quickly and go back, my first entry into business ownership was straight out of college. After failing at my first, what I thought was going to be the career. I was going to be a professional musician, a trumpeter in a symphony orchestra. That was what I wanted to do since the age of 10.
Wow.
Best laid plans, right? So I did all that, got my degrees, multiple degrees, and found out that, that's just not that's not going to work because I couldn't audition. I couldn't win auditions. A very competitive situation. And so I just, I said, well, I know people really love music. I guess I'll start an agency, a music agency. I knew nothing about sales, nothing about business, but I had some expertise and I certainly didn't want to start all over, right? Maybe your listeners can relate to that. You have some expertise, you're good at what you're doing. But the idea of just starting all the way over with something brand new just doesn't feel right. So I started a music agency and provided live music for weddings.
Great.
And lived in Scottsdale, Arizona, where weddings happen 9 months out of the year. Basically all of the months except for June, July, and August, which is when
too hot.
weddings happen all across the nation otherwise. It's just too dang hot.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the beginning of business development. I grew that business in spite of myself, in spite of being a socially awkward classical music nerd, because I have kind of this superpower, and that was one of the things I loved about our interview, right, Marty, is finding your superpower.
Yes.
Right. I didn't review what that was prior to this conversation with you, but because we all have superpowers.
Right.
Right. And so I wished I would have looked up what yours was. But Mine is the ability to see the perspective through another person and to feel their emotions and to see, well, how does this land? How does this, what else do they need? So with that ability, I was able to create my own sales approach that made it super easy for brides to be to make these huge purchases based on not knowing at all what they were buying.
Right.
But I helped them I educated them and provided them with clarity about what's at stake and what they could have, much like you do.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Building that kind of sense of, okay, that makes sense. And now I understand if I have this and if I don't take care of that, then things are going to go really bad.
Right.
And if I do have this, and if I put that, then things are going to unfold the way I want them to. So much like the work you do, right? That clarity and guidance that helps people to make better decisions. And so once I realized how to do that, to help people make better decisions for themselves, then it became super easy. Yeah. Because it wasn't me forcing them to make a decision. It was them choosing to make a decision out of information.
Yeah.
And they always say, oh, well, logic doesn't sell. Analytical stuff doesn't sell. It's all tied back to emotion. Because as you work with clients in this state of turmoil and fear and uncertainty, if they feel a glimmer of hope and confidence and solvency and independence, based on all the facts and figures, it's those things that give them that sense of, oh my gosh, I need to work with you, Mardi.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of funny. So I don't know if we talked about this before, but my first foray into business was running a DJ service when we did weddings.
Really? I had no idea. You're spinning the records, huh?
Yeah. Well, it was, we had some records, but we were getting into the CDs and, all that kind of stuff. So getting right on the verge there, but I think that this is why I think it's important for women who are either in business or who are thinking about a business to really hear from somebody who helps largely women, although I'm assuming you work with women and men in your business. But this whole idea of moving through a divorce and doing a big change in a career, or moving from corporate to private, or even going through the divorce and realizing your side hustle now needs to become your primary income. And maybe it's something you love and you've been doing a great job of, but now all of a sudden it's not just a nice little side thing for some extra money for vacation. It's something that's really got to happen. So can you talk a little bit, maybe, Wendy, about some of the issues that you see clients come in and that you're able to turn things around for them, some of their big challenges and concerns?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's that state of being in a transition brings out that feeling of vulnerability, right? And then we start second guessing ourselves. Whereas when things were just cruising along, it's like, oh yeah, I could do that. No problem. Oh, that, I do that better, faster, higher. I could do that. It's always easier to see and feel that kind of confidence that maybe, you're doing with a side hustle or contemplating starting a business, while being in this more, I would say, predictable environment, and then going through a big transition in life. There's a lot of mental stuff that starts happening that creates a confusion, right? And second guessing ourselves. I went through a divorce myself, and so I can fully relate to that. Wait a second, I thought this was my life and reality, and it just went all south to heck in a handbasket. So maybe I don't know myself all that well. Maybe I don't, whatever, those self-doubts. So what I would like to do is just maybe provide your listeners with some clarity on how to cut through the mental self-sabotage, right? That can cloud an opportunity and can lower our sense of self-worth.
I think that would be fantastic. Yeah.
These are the two important things: self-worth and just being able to discern, do I have something that is worthy of going for, of turning into a bigger focus, of like putting, all right, increasing, turning up the volume on my time, effort, energy, money, whatever? Or is it still one of those kind of, So one of the things that is extremely important is to, first off, create a calm container. What is it? What does that look like? Whether that's take a hike up in the mountains with a notebook, sit at the beach. I live here in Hawaii, and so it's beach is my office. When I'm not here talking with people like you, Marty, that's my office out there. That or on our boat. But finding that space, even if it's just a den or someplace in your house, create a space where there's just this calm, this sense of just getting in touch with yourself. And start journaling in terms of, what are the things that I'm good at doing? What are the things that I just, people say, oh, you're so good at that. Oh, yeah. You make that look so easy. And don't judge, right? Don't judge at all. Then make another list of things that you love doing. I just love it when. I just love to, and you would do it without even thinking twice if somebody asked you. And then think about, what is it that other people struggle with, either as a challenge, or they can't do it, or they don't know how, or what you can do and love to do supports them to achieve more of. And, granted, this could be a service, a traditional service, type business. This could be something along more the lines of the personal or professional development space. A lot of people that go through hardships in life become experts at making it through.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? So now they have that perspective and knowledge to support a lot of other people make it through that pathway. So that's the first thing, is to just get clear on what I love to do, what I'm good at, and what do other people seriously struggle with that I could support them with. And you might have already done this, right? If you've got a side hustle. But sometimes we need to redefine this and not say, oh, yeah, I already did this. Because you need to take a fresh look, right, at what it is that you can now see a bigger value in the work and the, expertise that you have. So once you have those, those three lists, then you think of, okay, because this is really the most important part, is people try to sell or offer what they have to everybody, right? Everybody. And the problem with that is that not everybody values what you do as much as somebody else.
Right.
Like, for instance, I'm a perfect example of like a makeup type person, right? Maybe a little lipstick and that's it. So if somebody approached me and said, Wendy, I can make you, I can show you how to do a makeover for $2,000. I'm like, forget it.
Yeah.
I have no interest in that.
Right.
No, well, geez, you could, just look so much better. I'm like, I look good enough, because I value that. Whereas if I were a movie star or an influencer that, or a model, where now it's linked to my value of income, direct correlation between makeup and looking, you know, I don't even want to use the words because then it makes me look, you know, like I'm I'm attacking myself, making me look great. In other words, what I'm saying is I don't look great, but making me look even better.
Yes, that's the way to
has a
put
direct correlation with now what I value.
Right.
You know, not just out there, but it's like if I value wanting to land a, you know, a job as a model, and now that's my priority. And somebody said, if you had more professional makeup, you could land that job. How much is it? $2,000. I'm in.
Right. Right.
So the message that I'm trying to communicate here, which is so important, is that present what your gift is to a specific audience who values the outcomes.
Yes.
The most. Because if I'm a parenting coach and I try to sell my parenting coaching to homeschool parents who have all day with their kids, they might not value that as much as, say, a busy corporate executive who is going through a divorce and finds herself just getting triggered and realizing the short amount of time that she has with her kids is regrets, is living in regrets when she thinks about how she showed up.
Right. I think
So
this is, yeah, I think,
yeah.
and you've just given like really, again, just a really clear example of why this is so important, because I see so many women that have great business ideas or that have great potential businesses, and they're just not getting any traction. But yet they're marketing, you know, to everybody under the sun. And I think this is where so many, you know, when they talk about that, what is that? 50% of small businesses fail in the first 5 years, isn't it?
Oh, I think it's a higher percentage than that.
Okay, maybe it is. And I'm just, but I know it's overwhelming. More fail than go on and be successful.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and that's typically why. Is because nobody wants what I'm selling.
Right.
I can't get clients.
Right.
But the blind spot is you are not talking to the people that already value what you do. And so then it when you don't do that, when you don't identify who does it really values the outcomes of what you do, the downside is, first off, you get very few people interested. You start doubting yourself.
Right.
And you're already in a situation here where there's a lot of self-doubts if you've just been through a divorce or in a divorce and that transition. And thirdly, you think, it's just, I'm charging too much. So let me charge less. Maybe I should just charge $100. And then it's just like, oh my gosh. Now
and then
you're
you
just
start resenting it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You really do. Yeah. It's
like,
and I've seen sort of that race to the bottom with the pricing with people who had amazing products, but like you said, they didn't identify who was sort of their target market, and then they were selling to everybody, and then they were decreasing the prices, and then even when they dropped the prices, nobody was buying it. Then they really started doubting themselves.
Well, it's actually, Marty, it's actually harder to sell when you start dropping the prices, because then people don't value what you're doing, what you're offering. And then with AI and all the kind of information at our fingertips, well, those kinds of people in that price point, well, they're the wing it yourselfers. I'm going to wing it. I'm just going to try to put this together with duct tape. I'll just research it. I'll just have ChatGPT figure it out with me.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And so then it becomes even harder to sell it the lower you go. Instead, when you look at, okay, this is what I love to do, and this is what I have some brilliance around this. Like if you're in a corporate world and you can see, with X-ray vision, why somebody's not getting promoted. and you know that you could help them get promoted. Or let's say, there are just so many areas within the corporate structure where, having been on the inside, you know how things work, and you can support somebody else to make it through whatever the barrier is. And so when you identify, yeah, that's a place where I could really help somebody, I could really make a difference. Well, then it simply comes down to who values most my expertise.
Right.
So one of my clients currently is working with, she calls them individual contributors. I call them worker bees in the corporate world. She calls them individual contributors, Wendy. I'm like, okay, they're worker bees. Individual contributors, worker bees. And so those kinds of people, they don't have as much stake. She's helping them to get promoted. A promotion for a worker bee into middle management is not that big of a bump in salary. It's a transformation. It's now they're a manager instead of a individual contributor. She could use the same skill set, though, to help a middle management person land a director role.
Right.
And so now that becomes a higher perceived value by that individual, because in middle management, that's a awful role to be in terms of the pressure, the stress, the responsibilities. You've got to motivate, you've got to deal with the KPI, you've got to make everything work.
Right.
So the point I'm trying to make is, even within a smaller scope, it still is important to see who values what I do the most.
Right. Right. Well, Wendy, we could talk for a long time, and we are almost out of time. But this is why I wanted you to come on, because not to discourage, because there is so much. Yeah. And Wendy is, as you can tell, she's very optimistic and she's very helpful. But I think it behooves us to help people understand how to come out of the gate running. Seeing as the Kentucky Derby was just on, how to come out of that gate running and really be successful in their business. And this Chat GPT, wing it, do what, my great aunt Millie did when she started her business in 1950. These strategies do not work anymore. So having somebody who can walk with you and save you from spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on shiny objects and coaching and group masterminds and all these things that are not going to get you any return on your investment, I think is so important. And that's why, Wendy, I wanted to have you come on and share your expertise. And I know it's just a little fraction of what you do for all your clients, but you do have a gift for our listeners. Can you tell us a little bit about that if they're interested in doing this business on their own?
Yeah. If any of your listeners have this, yearning to start a business, or you've already got a business going and you just really want to take it into that level of financial security, stability, have it something that's easy to grow and manage, because businesses can become consuming.
Yes.
So what I have for your listeners, those that are interested, is my Passion to Six Figures blueprint. And I call it passion because, we have this passion about some part of our expertise, some element that we know can make a difference for others, but it's turning that into a six-figure business. So this blueprint lays out exactly the key components in order to be able to create that six-figure business that is easy to run and self-generates and allows you to have that lifestyle of security and fun and be living your passion, making that meaningful difference for others.
And thank you for that. And it's a fantastic resource. And of course, once you get it and you take a look at it, you're probably going to have some questions. So that's why working with Wendy can kind of really help you tie all those loose ends together. Wendy, with all the information that we have covered today, what is kind of the one final thought you want to leave everybody with today?
Well, the thing that I always like to share, because I am an optimist, because I feel like there's so much negativity, especially in certain situations in life where we feel things are rough, things are challenging, things are just frightening, and there's a lot of uncertainty. To just know that within you is everything you need in order to be able to live the life that you truly do desire, and to never give up on that.
What a positive statement. And just, it is all you've got to trust yourself. You got to get over that fear. Am I making the right decision? But you don't just want to jump without having having done your homework and work through all of that stuff. So thank you for that, Wendy. If people want to find out more about what you do, what's the best way to track you down online and figure out what you do and all the goodness that you provide people?
Well, thank you for that, Marty. Yes, my website is probably the best place. That's impactmakercoaching.com. So there's a hyphen between impact and maker.
And I'll make sure that's in the show notes. And before I forget, Wendy, you have a couple of podcasts, right? Or you have an old one and a new one?
Yeah, I have one that I sunsetted and a brand new one that I'm super excited about. The Impact Maker's Journey from Passion to Profit. So that's... And Marty, you're going to be a guest on that.
I am going to, but if you're thinking about starting a business, Wendy's podcast, I'm going to tell you, like I said, I was on her podcast, her previous podcast as a guest, and it really did change the way that I was doing business. So, I'm speaking from experience. I don't get on here and talk about people that I don't have any personal experience with, but I can tell you it made a big difference. So listen in to Wendy's new podcast. You'll pick up little tips. You'll pick up advice. You'll hear from people who have been in the trenches and some of the good stories and some of the not so good stories, I guess.
It's not always a pretty journey. It's sometimes kind of messy, but that's why I said keep connected with that bigger vision. Yeah. And working with you, Marty, is just such a brilliant move as well, because that is a tricky time to transition through divorces. Yeah. So I really applaud you for being there.
Well, thank you. People. Thank you, Wendy. As always, it was such a pleasure to talk with you. And thank you for being here on the D Shift. And I want to thank everybody for listening in. And don't forget to tune in again next week. Thanks for listening and supporting the D Shift podcast. If you would like to attend live trainings by our amazing guests and have a chance to ask questions and get answers from our experts, join the D Shift crew. For more details and to sign up, head on over to www.divorcecoachforwomen and click on the podcast page.